for InFocus is provided by Smithville, a locally owned business serving central and southern Indiana since 1922 with residential and business internet, voice, and security services. Smithville, local pride, global technology. Information at smithville.net. Hoosier Energy, providing electricity for central and southern Indiana electric cooperatives and their member customers. Information at hepn.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
With $19 billion in annual revenues, Indiana is adding to its economy while reducing waste. The state's recycling industry has an estimated $3 billion in annual payroll. A recent report from the state of Indiana shows a significant economic impact of its recycling program. However, many counties are struggling to keep their recycling programs. Tonight, we discuss how Indiana is putting its natural resources to work as we put the environment in focus. Welcome to InFocus. I'm Ann Shea. If you have questions for one of our studio experts, email us at infocus@indiana.edu or give us a call at 1-800-987-9848. The state of Indiana is aiming to keep its recycling program while budget reductions are being adopted. While Indiana's recycling industry has contributed to the state's economy, areas such as Greene County are struggling with a budget shortage. How is the Hoosier State providing for its recycling program in the current economic situation?
A recent report from the state of Indiana shows the recycling industry generates $285 million annually and employs an estimated 75,000 Hoosiers. In Monroe County, about 2 of every 5 people recycle, a rate exceeding many other counties in the state.
Bloomington is a very environmental community, and we have a lot of community members who know the benefits and practice, helping create a healthy environment. But each community is different. Indianapolis has a very low recycling rate.
But some rural locations like Greene County are having a hard time keeping up with demand because cans and bottles must often be carried a long distance to the recycling center. Greene County's operation is more expensive. Add in a skeleton staff and the work is even more difficult.
We have a 5-person staff, so to cover a county that's this size is really tough. It's basically 8 hours a day. We're here and we're going strong the whole time. Our equipment's always in use. We have 4 vertical balers inside that are constantly in use. We have to have the money in the budget to buy the equipment. It'd be nice to see some improvements at the state level to where there'd be more grants available for equipment. That's something that IDEM used to always have. Every year they would have equipment grants, but with the economic downfall recently, a lot of those grants are on suspension, so we're having to fund those particular types of things ourselves.
Tonight, we'll talk about the feasibility of recycling and how Indiana is putting its natural resources to work as we put the environment in focus.
And joining me, as always, tonight is WFIU News Director Stan Jastrzebski. Stan, who do you have in the radio booth tonight?
And later on this evening, we'll talk with John Danner from the Greene County Solid Waste Management District about some of the challenges of rural recycling. In fact, our cameras a few weeks ago went to Greene County to talk to residents there about how recycling affects them.
Well, my husband recycles his cans, but other than that, that's the only thing he does.
I do recycle when it comes to composting. Really benefits a garden that I maintain.
It's very important to the environment. I mean, if we don't, we're going to end up in a mess.
We only have one planet, and so we need to do everything we can to help preserve it.
There is absolutely nothing about taking away recycling that is positive.
And joining me tonight in the studio, we have Carrie Hamilton, the Executive Director for the Indiana Recycling Coalition, Executive Director of the Monroe County Solid Waste Department, Larry Barker, and Paul Reed, the manager of the Recycle Center at Indiana State University in Terre Haute. Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ann.
Carrie, why don't we start with you and talk about what your organization actually is if people don't know about it.
Sure, thanks, Ann. The Indiana Recycling Coalition is a statewide organization. We've been around for just over 20 years, and we work to advance recycling programs and policies in the state. We also do statewide education to educate Hoosiers and in particular elected officials and other decision makers about the benefits of recycling.
If we can just stay with you real briefly, in the story that we just saw, we had somebody from Greene County talking about how grants have dried up, they're not getting the equipment they actually need. What is the state of recycling in Indiana in terms of dollars?
Well, for about the past 20 years, Indiana has provided some modest but important grants and loans for recycling infrastructure and programs across the state. In the past year and a half, because of the fiscal crisis, as was mentioned, those dollars were first frozen, some were then taken away, and we have fought since the day the funds were frozen to release those dollars. We're excited that a small portion, have now been released, in particular to invest in recycling infrastructure. There are other dollars for education and equipment that are still frozen. We're going to continue to work for the release of those dollars. But in general, Indiana does, again, put a modest amount of money towards recycling compared to most other states.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about infrastructure. And when people think about recycling, obviously they think about putting their glass and their aluminum and those kinds of things, and there's newspapers. But Larry, if I can go to you, how has that infrastructure changed recently when it comes to what recycling really is?
For Monroe County, it's really enhanced. Prior to my coming in as the director, Monroe County only done plastics 1 and 2. Since then, we brought on plastics 3 through 7. So we've really enhanced our programs in Monroe County. The community is very, very progressive in Monroe County. People want to do the right thing. People will take the extra time to come out and recycle just so they feel the needs of the planet are being met. So I'm really appreciative that I live in a community like Monroe County that really takes recycling serious.
And Paul, if I can go to you and talk about Indiana State and the county itself, how has the recycling infrastructure changed there?
Actually, we've seen an increase in those that actually recycle in Terre Haute, in the community itself. And there is probably tripled in the last year and a half. So the involvement in recycling from the general public is great, and it looks to remain that for a long period of time. And the things that we collect really are driven by the community members, because they expect us to have markets for really everything. And we all know that that's hard to do. So,
if you can explain to me, in terms of the Indiana State, the Recycle Center there, do you draw upon everybody from the community or just the university itself?
Well, we actually started 20 years ago for the university, the recycling, and because of interest from the community to be involved in recycling, we were nudged to actually open up a recycling drive-through facility for the general public.
And that's been working well, obviously.
It's going great. Very, 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 very well used, yes.
Okay, great. And let's start again with you, Carrie, in terms of the money itself. What have been the most successful efforts, I would say, within the last few years in terms of recycling in the Hoosier State?
Well, Ann, let me mention first the really important message that Hoosiers should know about the economic and environmental benefits of recycling for Indiana. And in particular because we're such a manufacturing state. You mentioned earlier that we have about a $19 billion a year industry recycling impact on our economy in Indiana, and that is due in large part to the fact that we are a manufacturing state. So when we recycle, those materials very often go directly to our Indiana manufacturing sector that are turning those materials back into new products, aluminum, glass, steel, plastic. And when the recyclables are used instead of raw materials, significant amounts of energy are saved. So that translates to a major positive impact on our carbon footprint, so reducing Indiana's carbon emissions, which of course is a very powerful environmental benefit, but also it makes those manufacturing sectors and businesses in Indiana more competitive in a global manufacturing marketplace when they're saving so much money because of that recycled energy benefit.
Okay, we'll get more to that in just a minute, but now residents in Bedford, Indiana give their opinion on what would happen if recycling centers completely went away.
It would increase the amount of trash that I got to throw to the dump every other day or so. It would probably cause my wife and I to probably travel up to Bloomington to go recycle it up there.
I don't know how much it would actually directly affect me.
Affect it very badly, because where would we take it at? Where would it be dumped at? And how much of the landfill can hold all this? Because eventually it's going to be dumped into our lakes, our streams, and our rivers. And it's going to make it to where children are unable to go fishing or swimming.
I think that would be horrible, because a lot of people enjoy doing it. They know it's good for the environment, and I think it should at least be an option.